you remember the 80s, a time before mountain bikes? I do. If you do, you'll love this. So picture the scene, it's 1986 and I'm 5. Yeah, child of the 80s. This is one of Raleigh's first attempts at an all-terrain bike, and it's a Raleigh Maverick. Now, those of you that know your bikes might have seen Mavericks before, but maybe not like this one, because this is a Maverick Pro. It's made from Reynolds 531 tubing and was made in the SBDU factory in Ilkeston, the special build unit, according to the catalogue. Frame number sort of suggests otherwise, but the lugwork and the design suggests yes. So that is the bike. This one I picked up for £25, 25 quid. That's like a takeaway pizza. And I've got one. And to a Raleigh fan like me and a child of the 80s, this thing is super duper cool. It's got Suntour gearing. This was an 18 speed and it still is. It's still got its original wheels with the weirdly called rustless spokes, which just means that, well, not in the build today, but in the future we're going to strip these for some stainless spokes. It's got its complete Suntour Mountec, I think it's called, Mountec group set, all its original cabling, original Diacompi brakes with these awesome chunky great big levers, and actually, if we wanted to, we could probably ride this right now. It's been cleaned up before, it's got some Shorby Land Cruisers on it, but let me tell you a bit more about the plan. So those of you that know my channel know that I like to convert things to gravel bikes and stuff. Don't worry, I'm not doing that. I could only imagine the backlash from people. I mean, I would get to make a lot of stickers, but don't worry, that's not my intentions. We're going for a sympathetic restoration. It's that side of my builds. However, I'm going to make a couple of little cheeky tweaks to make it suit me and make it just a little bit more usable in the modern age. One of which is a handlebar change, the other is a gearing change, which I don't even know is going to work. I'm hoping that it will. But before we do any of that, you've seen this thing now, let's strip it down and get cleaning, because cleaning's a big part of this, a lot of cleaning. Now, that was cool as hell. A lot of work, but all the parts pretty much are in great condition. Not really any surprises apart from one on the frame. I don't know whether you saw, you won't have seen, let me show you. There's some later decals on it, I've took them off, have a look at this. So you can see there, the frame has come up beautifully, however, I removed one of the decals and there's a mark, look. Oh no, look at that there. Yeah, there's a mark there, which is a bit of a pain, but it is what it is. Look at the rest of the frame though, it's lovely. Let me show you the parts. Okay, so they're all a bit mishmash. I'm not going to do some sort of Gucci layout, but they have come out fantastic. Really looking good. We're going to see them one by one as we move on. Oh, and then there's the rear derailleur rear. Look at that. Suntour Mountec. So first up on the rebuild list is to reunite frame and fork with a liberal helping of brand new grease, because I think what was left in here is the original factory stock. So I'm going to use this red Teflon stuff because it's what I've got left that needs using. I can't wait to finish this up and get something else because I don't like this Teflon stuff and it's not the best for the environment. So the bearings have cleaned up beautifully, so we're going to pop them in. Get them in place. Beautiful Changi headset, or change, as people say. Plenty of grease, because as you folks all know, I think I've got my bearings right around there. Oh, that's a funny looking cup, that. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. As you guys know, we don't do Trailer Queen bikes, so this is going to get ridden at some point. It's going to have to get in the queue, because quite a few of my builds haven't been ridden lately. It's probably an important time as well to mention to you. Some of you might be looking at this thinking this bike is out and out going to be too small for me. Well, it is a touch smaller than what I'd normally have. However, it's the biggest one they did. So this would have been the one I would have had to have chosen had I been spoilt enough when I got my first mountain bike. I didn't get my mountain bike till the 90s really, so I had a Raleigh burner. Wish I hadn't given that to somebody that ended up in a skip. Oh, marvellous. Oh, even better. What a lovely headset. Okay, so with the headset in place, time to talk about my first choice of mod. In my mind, what I wanted was some bull moose bars. My God, they're expensive if you want them with a quill stem, so I've got some with an adapter. If you don't like it, buy me some with a quill stem, because these were a lot cheaper. Got a little adapter and a set of bull moose bars, which I think are going to look smashing on this, and they're a little bit wider. I'm not worried about this from originality stakes, because the bar that's just come off isn't the original either. There would have been a high-rise type situation, long gone. Couldn't get hold of one of them. Thought a bull moose would be pretty cool. So, bit of grease on here, and let's pop this in. Plus, this is a non-permanent mod, so we can always change it back if we don't like it. And I've just realised I haven't put a hanger in. Oh bother. Well, that's a stroke of luck. I've just put my hand straight on a frame mounted one. I think that'll work quite nicely actually. Cranks. So, you'll notice that the bottom bracket's already in. That's because it hasn't come out. This appears to be sealed cartridge and it is perfect, and I haven't got the right tool in. So I've just checked the lock rings are tight, put them back on after a clean, and I've now got my chain set to put back on as well. 170mm arms, not ideal for somebody my height, but there we go. One thing that's really interesting, you won't be able to see this, is these crank bolts. I was going to put some Allen ones in because I like them, but these are actually branded as Suntour, which is a lovely thing. So we're going to use them again. We're going to blab it up with a bit of grease, if we can get some out of a tub. There we go. Little dot of grease on there, so we don't have any problems. Got the washer as well. Look at that. I haven't gone uber mad on the cleaning on the chain set because I'm going to ride this bike. I was going to split it and clean it and everything, but let's see how we get on. Maybe we'll do it again. I don't think it's going to be clean for long, that's for sure. Lovely, look at that. That is spinning so nicely. And what's even better is I've still got the rally caps. The rally caps, the plastic rally caps actually survived, which is very unusual. I think I have the provenance to speak like that, having specialised in rallies and vintage lightweights for many years. I've had to melt these out and all sorts of things. I had to heat them with a heat gun and melt them out, all kinds of stuff. So that is a real treat. Wonderful. Also, while we're in the chain set area, let's get first piece of our Suntour Mountech refitted. Fresh out the degreaser and with a new light coat of oil. This is in phenomenal condition. Really impressive. So we've got Suntour gearing, Sagino cranks. This thing is going to be so much fun. It's going to be great. Lovely. Whew, can't stop spinning that, it's great. This is flying back together, this bike, although we've got a long way to go because we want everything so nicely cleaned. But I'm going to screw the derailleur back into place now. Just spotting this, it's got Shimano dropouts, this bike. That's a cool thing. What a weird mech, it's got a double pivot here, you see that? That's great. So, lovely, looks like new. Really has come up well. I'm not machine polishing or auto soling anything on this bike. I'm going for just a nice, super clean look. There we go, lovely. Right, let's get some brakes in place. So, when it comes to the brakes with these early die compies couldn't really be much simpler, to be quite frank with you. There's a spring and there's a pivot. That's it. So we grab a set of springs. We make sure they fit the bike right. There we go, one there. Make sure we got pivot in pivots. Lovely. Oh, very nice. Very nice, strong brakes, lovely. Right, let's do the bolts, which have, oh man, these bolts have cleaned up beautifully. Just really, really nice. So, little bit of grease. Now I know what you're saying. Do we grease the brake post bolts or not? Controversial subject. This is an old bike, okay? If we were going to get all precious about it, we could do wet torque settings, we could do all sorts of wonderful things. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to tighten them and then probably never think about it ever again. You may have noticed in this video I've treated myself to some ratchet spanners and they're blooming brilliant. Came off Amazon, so I'm pretty sure we're going to get maybe one bike out of them before they just give up the ghost. But we'll have this conversation again after Christmas. Should have a nice pivoting brake, lovely. I'll tell you one thing, you can tell this is a serious quality frame with nice parts from this era because it is a joy to work on, an absolute joy. Very nice, there we go, right. Oh, I've got a slightly binding brake there. There we go, that's settling, yeah, that's good. Right, to the back. Same again out back. Right, so with those brakes in place, I'm going to turn our attention to the cockpit and start putting together those awesome thumb shifters first, I think. Yeah, so I think what we'll do, it's very hard to know how to pursue this. Put them in place with the brake lever, because these clamps have to be put in place before the brake levers, the gear shifters are tightened up. What we'll do is we'll install the grips and then set everything up. Let's do it that way. Going for some foamy grips as well, which is kind of cool. And if we're going to use foamies, we might as well break out the Bristos. Spared no expense. Really hope I like this handlebar because these aren't coming off. Nice grip like that, that's going to look lovely, that. Oh, I've got it all round the outside, look. Put the shifter mount on. Brake lever. One of them's unfortunately no longer, it's obviously been sun-baked at some point and it's gone a bit bronzy. But it's original, so it has to stay. If I had another spare one, I'd bang it on there. Even I don't keep spares of old Diacompi brake levers. I'm going to set these roughly where I want them. So get the brake levers roughly where I think they should be. So nice bit of lean on them. Cool, these are quite hard to set up with this rake on this bar, but it is cool as hell. Which means that the next job is to tighten up the shifter clamps with a 9mm spanner. So these are 9mm, these clamps. Just do them up like that. Right next to the brake levers. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. There we go. A little bit of grease in each of them. Just keep them happy. Just goes over the top. These are, oh, that's backwards. That's that one. That's that one. Okay, and then the second one can go in place as well. Cool. Okay, so our next job is to show these hubs some love. Now, you don't often see me going through a hub on my videos because, well, I tend to do it in peace and serenity. I thought for this one we'll do it. So I've got a rather Gucci Campagnolo flat spanner, a 17mm, and like everything else on this bike, it's not tight enough. This is barely tight. I think this is a good thing that we're going through this bike, because I've noticed a distinct lack of anything being tightened up correctly. For those of you who haven't done a cup and cone hub before, that's what this is called. It's a cup and cone. And if you haven't done one, why haven't you done one? Because you should be doing them regularly if you're a bike person and you've got them, especially if you like your older bikes. This is a front wheel. Basically the principle is you've got open bearings, so you've got bearings either side that sit in between a cup and a cone. So we're going to unscrew it. We're going to go in from one side only. I'm going to use a magnet to collect up all the bearings, like that. Okay, so once you've stripped down your hub, inspect your cups inside the hub. Don't take these dust covers off. People take them off. Just don't do that. You don't need to take them off. You're not supposed to take them off. They never go back in the way they should. Get a bit of rag or whatever. I always spray my bearings with a little bit WD-40 just to get the old grease off. And then rebuild. You're going to want to try and have a look to make sure that this part of the cone isn't worn too bad either. There we go. Lovely. Bit of grease in here. We're going to replace our bearings. Just going to hold them like that with my finger. I've just realised I've done them slightly the wrong way around, so I need to hold them while I do this side. Don't be afraid to use plenty of grease. It'll purge out what it doesn't want when we set it up. So once you've got your bearings in place, we're then going to rethread our axle. Make sure it's spinning freely at this point. I'm going to reinstall my cone. What we're looking for is for this to tighten up. We want it to spin freely, but we don't want any play. Okay, so what I like to do, a little bit too tight. Then I get my spanner, a flat one. This is a Campagnolo, you know. Other cheaper tools for, you know, the common folk are available. And as I get to the point where it's tightened, I start to have a feel about how tight is it and is it still grinding. If it's still catching, as I tighten, I'll bring the flat spanner back a touch, back it off. That should give me a nice bearing there. I shouldn't have any play. It should spin nice and freely, which it does. Look at that, lovely. Okay, back is more of the same. I always take this off from the non-drive side because, well, it's easier. And we're going to keep all the important space in. And that is moving beautifully. No play, beautiful spinning hub. With the wheels rebuilt, now I'm going to talk about one of the changes that we're making to the bike, and this one is a little ambitious, and it's about the gears, because I've come across this, which is a 10-speed screw-on freewheel, and it felt like it'd be rude not to try this. So my plan is, basically, I've checked the space in, and I might have to put an extra washer in on here, but hopefully we're going to be able to run 3x10, which is really cool. It's such a nice little trick to bring this wonderful bike up to speed. So I'm just going to screw this on and let's see how it fits. There we go. So we're going to screw this on and see where we are with the spacing. So we might need to just increase a little bit on there. So yeah, we are. We're going to have to increase the axle with another spacer or so, but I reckon we should be able to snaffle a bit from one side. So there we go. Right, next job, space that out, put it in the bike. Okay, so moment of truth time. Getting a 10-speed block in here, it's possible. Haven't quite got the dish I want on the wheel. I had to respace the axle and dish it back over. I was going to respoke this and everything else, but then I thought I'll just try it with that rear derailleur. And on its maximum limit, I can't really do this with one hand, on its maximum limit, it just won't quite go past the biggest cog. I can't do it with one hand. There we go. So it's not going to start. It's a non-starter and a learning point. If I want to start messing up with different derailleurs and things, I could make this work. As it stands, it now means I've got to take this cassette off and dish it back over. And that is going to take some doing because these spokes are tight. Okay, so rear wheel is now fixed, dished, and with a 6-speed block on it, ready to roll. Sometimes you've got to try these things, and sometimes they don't really work out. Okay, I think had I completely relaced the wheel, I probably could have got the 10-speed to work, but the rear mech just no way was that rear derailleur. It was just a tiny bit off. Speaking of things that don't work, I've actually made a little change off camera. These, they're just a no from me at the moment. They're so aggressive on this bike, it's no good. So I've had to come up with a different solution. And I've gone slightly newer, and if you don't like it, well, you remember the rules, it's not your bike, it's mine. It's not exactly what I wanted, but I don't know if you can see behind me. Got some club roosts and a nice long black stem, and I thought this would work all right purely because it already had a long black stem on the other way around on the original bars. This is going to give me some rise and make it, because the point is I need to be able to ride the bike. I'm 6'3", and this is the biggest one they made. It's no use to me if I can't ride it, and I don't, in my 40s now, crackerjack can't take it. So without further messing around, let's get these wheels in this bike so we can see just how cool this badass machine is going to look. I've been onto Baldwin Cycles again on the internet buying, and I'm going for a 2.1 inch tyre because that's what I could get. And because this is an old all-terrain bike, it eats them up. It's amazing. So going to support this while we tighten it up, get it into place in those lovely Shimano dropouts. Look at that. Something about a steel frame, no matter how old it is, with a fat tyre in it, it's just the best. I've trued this wheel up as best I can get it. When I tried to detension it, it flexed like a Pringle. I thought it was going to snap. It literally went like a Pringle. So it has got a tiny bit of radial in it, but it is pretty true, so it'll roll okay. I mean, the rim's, it's nearly as old as me, which is quite old. Front one, more of the same. Oh, this thing is looking cool. Oh, I'm glad I kept these fat rims now. I was thinking about putting something a bit nicer in, but look at them. Next job is to get the drivetrain rolling again. Now, because we're not going for that 10-speed conversion, I'm going to try and reuse the chain that came with this, because it's a really cool old schooler. Whether it'll work or not, I don't know. I don't see why it won't. It's a non-index system, it's all friction. The only thing I'm going to do, which I think is quite cool, is add a little quick link. I found a quick link that I think will work. But given everything else I've tried on this poor little bike hasn't worked, this might not. Oh, I didn't like that. Okay, same quick link idea didn't work, so I'm just going to put a pin back in it. There we go. She's going. If any of you are still here after watching that unfold, I'd like to thank you all for sticking around. Right, let's get some limits on, give this chain a good wipe down with some oil. I know there's going to be too much low limit here because I tried to get a 10 speed to fit. Cool. There we go. Nice. Let's give that chain a good oil up. So because I've degreased this and because it's old, I'm going to go for a liberal helping of 3-in-1 just to re-penetrate everything. Otherwise, the minute this bike goes outside, this chain's going to oxidise and it's going to look horrible. This will also get the last of the cleaning agents off it. This is something I used to do when people wanted all originality on a bike, just to bring the chains back to life when I did the vintage stuff. Good old clean. Be amazed, some people want a brand new chain, some people didn't. They wanted a cleaned up old chain. So, customer is always right, so this is the way I used to do it. If it was just for a war bike, I used to polish the chain with Autosol and Prasso for an extra nice finish. Okay, so next job on the list is gear time. These are friction shift, but it doesn't mean they don't deserve a nice bit of stainless cable, because I think they do. One out back here as well for the front. There we go. Right, now this is a friction system, as I've mentioned before, so really we don't need specific gear cable outer, but because we're fitting a new brake boss here, brake stop here, we're going to end up making new outers all round, so we might as well do them in proper gear outer anyway. It's going to be a smoother shift, isn't it? So I'm going to make 2 loops the same size. 1 loop and another loop. Loopy. So cut this one here as well and get the right ends, because this has got some specific stops down here. Right, and with the first one snipped, we're going to feed this through, and already the time I took breaking this down is paying off, because we need these little stoppers here. And if we'd have lost one, well, I've got a few left over from my old days having the shop. So you can tell that these bikes used to use the same brake and gear outers, because this doesn't fit overly well, but it is unfortunately what it is. Remember, a little bit of oil into your outer before you put your cable through. Don't go in dry. You got to put a little bit of lubrication in there. Even with a stainless cable, you want it shifting slick as grass through a goose, as people would say. And in case you're wondering, yeah, I'm keeping all the original outers from this. Keeping all the original outers in case we want to go all original on the rebuild. There we go. Right, to the back. Okay, try again. So out back, we've got the same situation again. We've got one of these little stoppers. Gear cable outer. Goes into the little boss there and into the back of the derailleur and pulls through. I loved it when Suntour did this to their mechs. This middle mount is so cool. Let's get Allen key for that. Okay, let's try that again. I might have missed the routing originally there. That is like, oh, it's so smooth. I love friction shifting. Look at that, beautiful. Right, do the front one. Front wise couldn't really be much easier. Limits are good. Route the cable up, straight up through the guide. There we go. Tighten her up. That should be good to go now. Save any tangling. Let's crank her up. Beautiful. Perfect. What a system. Brakes. Right, now for the front brake, as we get going, I've had to make a change again. You'll notice that the hanger from here is gone and it's now up here. Because I want to use the original straddle cables, the original distances, it's going to have to be this way. So, before we do that though, first thing we need to do is loosen off our pads with the 10mm spanner that I can't find. Everybody has a different approach to how to set up canties. These are older ones, so we're going to use a little bit of license, but I'm going to show you how I do them anyway. First job we're going to do is just loosen the pads so they're fully mobile. 10mm spanner on the back. Oh God, these are tight. Next job, I'm going to unscrew. This is the top tip from my old mate Martin. About 5mm of barrel adjustment. I'm going to cut a nice flamboyant arch of cable. Put it in place. Push on end caps. Brake cable in. Jacket pickerings will be pleased because I'm using the plastic brake ends that he gave me because apparently they're better. The debate rolls on. So just thread that hanger tight enough that it's on there, and get the straddle cable and put it on to the arms. Now with later canties this is easier, but what I want ideally is an almost parallel with the fork. I'm not going to think about the pads at all at this point, just the arms. About there, I think. They're about parallel. So with that straddle cable in place, arms almost parallel. I'm now going to set up my pads as best I can right against the rim. Completely flat, no toe, just flat against the rim, as close to flat against the rim as we can get, because these are a little bit of an older brake. They kind of attack at a bit of an angle. Once you've got them where you want them, tighten them up. Don't be afraid to put them right against the rim. Get the cable out of the way. The brake should be rubbing, or even stuck completely on, which this one is. Now I'm going to undo that barrel adjuster. That's going to give us our appropriate length of travel, and then we're just going to adjust the balance on these because these are just a little bit imbalanced, these brakes. There we go. Okay, so out back is more of the same pretty much. And there you go. Marvellous. Ooh, yeah, check this out. How cool is that? Just look at it. It is 80s retro loveliness. Just check it out. It has turned out so unbelievably well. Super duper clean. It's now in a way that sort of fits me. The bars aren't exactly what I wanted, but I am going to go with them. I think they're pretty cool. Nice bit of riser, nothing wrong with that. So let's recap what we've done while you look at it in detail. We've rebuilt the bike from the ground up. Everything's had a deep clean. Some of the old inappropriate decals have been taken off. The whole bike has been scrubbed, polished and waxed. We've replaced the bars, we've replaced the saddle, we've got rid of that horrible Uno thing with a turbo, because everybody loves a turbo, right? Turbo saddle is a cool thing. We fitted 2.1 inch DSI Boldies, whatever they are, tyres, and we originally were going to go for a 10-speed, 3x10, didn't quite work, so we've now got a rebuilt back wheel with new brass nipples, all dished back to the appropriate setting. So all that's left now is to ride it. And unfortunately, the rain is pouring and it's dark, so we aren't going out on it any time soon. I'm pretty sure any hint of moisture and this thing isn't really going to stop at all, so that should be fun. You'll enjoy that in a video. So I'm going to sign off and say your next ride is downhill, smooth tarmac. Keep your wheels spinning, keep your rubber on the road or your knobblies out on that trail. Be safe, look out for one another. Remember the nod cyclist to cyclist, but don't give it the nod. Say hello with it. Let's be friendly. If you see anybody in need, stop and help. Just be a good human being first and an even better cyclist second. If you get a minute, it'd be absolutely amazing if you could like and subscribe, especially if you enjoy all things cycling. You'll find it in my content. But, and it's a big but, don't let it get in the way of you getting out there and riding your bike. Until next time, bike fans, this has been Daniel, Smooth Tarmac.